So this is our Accessible Tutorials team. Please welcome them, and they'll give their presentation now.
Thanks, guys. So I'm Lorelei Rutledge, and with me is Carrie Rogers-Whitehead and Jacob Reed. Jacob and I are at the University of Utah, and Carrie is at the Salt Lake County Public Library. So we're going to talk about our progress on the project that's working or that's doing ILEAD accessible tutorials. Right now, we've mostly focused on specific areas of our project, but we're also going to give you kind of an overview of our learning process. So first, we're going to talk about kind of what happened with our team, how we've changed kind of over time, our initial plan versus our current plan, the learning opportunities we had, project benefits and outcomes, and our future plans. So as most of you know, we started out with a team of 5. Not pictured on here was our University of Utah colleague, Kate Holvett. She took a job in the United Arab Emirates shortly before the first intersession began and was replaced by Aaron Wimmer on the bottom left. Then Aaron got a new job at the Eccles Health Sciences Library and could no longer participate in the project. And Rhonda, who is in the top middle, was actually at Ogden School District, and I think most of you kind of know what happened there, but basically they let their school media specialist go, and she was one of the victims of that decision, so she's no longer on the project. So first there were 5, then there were 3, and then there were Jacob and me crying alone at the University of Utah. So our initial plan was to create online tutorials to support staff and patrons with disabilities in learning how to use accessible technologies, and also to show best practices for working with patrons with different kinds of disabilities. So our revised plan has still stuck with those goals, but we realized that we needed to spend more time on specific parts of our project. So when we first started, our focus was mostly on creating content. And then we realized that one of the things that was really going to take us a lot of time and learning was actually creating a Joomla site to host the content. So we looked at a lot of different website systems, and Joomla was the one that worked best for us because it's open so that both Carrie and Jacob and I can all use it. We also focused a little bit more on actually gathering tutorials from other institutions that are also interested in accessible technologies and using our website as a venue to draw attention to the work that's already been done. We also began work on creating tutorials, but quickly realized that we needed a longer time frame than what we had initially imagined to actually recruit our actors and actresses and do the video editing required to make a top-notch project. We also decided that we wanted to develop a webinar to share our findings. So now Jacob is going to show you our website and talk a little bit about our process for creating that.
Thank you. So our website, it's still, I've got a lot of the technical framework up. It's still quite rough. It needs to be worked on. Right now we've got an about page where we're talking about our site. We've got some basic information about the people involved in it, in the project, and some basic information about ILEAD. We've got one area about where we're listing our internal tutorials, where we're listing the things that that we're working on within the site. We do not have very much content yet, so a lot of this is filler code right now. But we have had time to. We have developed one video tutorial so far, which I'll show you in a little while. I also want to further flesh out external tutorials. I've got a list of kind of broad links. At this point, we've got some stuff on Kurzweil and JAWS, and I think we're going to extend these out into full-scale guides rather than having them be a breakdown of items. We also will be showing additional news. I would like to extend this out and do some sort of a blog as well, where we do things that maybe aren't tutorials but is information about accessibility and sort of things dealing with accessibility on the web. And then we'll add some contact information. Further developments, I would like to do some stuff for some recruitment information for contacting us if somebody has a tutorial they would like to add or wants to be part of future tutorial development. But yeah, that's basically where we're at now. Even though this is a bit rough, I think at this point, all the technological underpinnings are there. All the stuff isn't pretty but takes a lot of time has been fleshed out, which I think is good. I think that we should be able to further develop this. I've already recruited Leah Martin at the University of Utah, and she is excited about helping us do some stuff to really pretty this up. She's one of our web designers, whereas I'm more of a technological person. She actually has some artistic creative skills. But yeah, and so far we've done one video tutorial. In some ways this fleshes out what I think we're going to do. I think we're going to probably move towards less actors, if I were to guess, and more towards encapsulating a lot of the animations and stuff from keynote presentations, PowerPoint presentations, integrating those into video elements, and then including those as part of a short summaries of stuff. So there's text and then a basic video. But I can show you this really quickly. This is kind of our first attempt at a video, and we'll see if it works.
Hello, this is Lorelei Rutledge with the ILEAD Utah Accessible Tutorials team. The following tutorial will discuss best practices for working with patrons with visual impairments in libraries. When greeting a patron who is blind or has low vision, greet them the same way that you would greet any other patron, telling them your name and asking them how you can help. Let the patron know if you need to finish another question before you can work with them so that they don't think they're being ignored.
Hello. My name's Warren. Can I help you?
Sure. I was wondering if you could show me where I can use a computer which have JAWS and other accessibility
Oh, sure.
for visually impaired
Let
people.
me just grab the key to accessibility room.
If you need to move to get something for the patron, let them know that you're stepping away from them. If you're coming around the desk to walk with a patron, let him or her know where you're going.
Would you like me to take your arm?
Yeah, because I don't have a third hand.
When you're directing a patron, tell the patron what direction and how far away the area they want to find is. You can also direct using clock directions. For example, the restroom is about 15 away at 3 o'clock. Also, ask the patron if he or she would like you to take his or her elbow before you touch them. Do not touch a patron without permission.
Okay, can you please help me to make sure the computer is on,
Yes.
JAWS up, and the internet is available?
If the patron does not ask first, ask if he or she would like you to make sure that any specific software programs are open or devices are plugged in. Also, make sure that you know what accessible technology is available to your patrons in case they have questions.
You see? There's a seat right here.
All right, let me move my cart. Thank you.
JAWS is up and running. And the computer's on. You're logged in.
And the internet is available?
Internet is connected. Good to go.
All right, thank you, Warren.
No problem. Have a great day. Let me know if you need other help.
Sure.
Before you leave the patron, make sure he or she knows where tools like the keyboard are located in the room. Also, make sure he or she feels comfortable navigating back to the reference desk. If he or she does not, offer to come back in a specified amount of time to check in if he or she would like for you to do so.
Well, by the way, are you going to shut the door?
Yes.
Can you please leave that open a little bit?
Okay.
Thank you, Warren.
When you leave, let the patron know that you are leaving the room. Check in about whether he or she would like the door left open or closed. This is the ILEAD Utah Accessible Tutorials team, and we would like to thank you again for watching our presentation.
But anyway, yeah, so I think we're going to try to do, thanks, do a few more things like that. I think one thing we learned is that trying to actually get people in coordinating scenes is time-consuming and difficult. Getting proper audio set up during those situations is very difficult. And so I think the sort of tutorials that have that scope might be limited to some degree, which was a lesson learned. I think we also learned how to properly caption, stuff like that. It was a good experience so far. But yeah, I think we're well on our way. Yeah, we've got some content, and we're looking forward to moving forward. And let's see. See if I'll, yeah. So, and I'll give that back there. Carrie.
Thank you. So as Lorelei mentioned, we had a lot of changes in our group, changing jobs, new responsibilities that we had, people leaving, and as Lorelei writes here, and this stuff happens. But it was a really great learning experience to learn to work with absentees and other jobs and everything, and to organize our time and to communicate better. We found the best way to communicate with each other was usually email, and we kept tabs on each other. So we all had competing priorities, like you all have a day job, and Rhonda as a media specialist couldn't get substitutes, which was hard, and we all had difficulty getting time off work, and working in the different libraries around. We had, in the beginning, Ogden, Salt Lake City, and down further west in the county, all represented. So it can be very hard to meet when you're all in disparate places, just probably like the bookmore people feel. So, but we did learn, even though there were competing priorities, we always kept it in mind, and we always checked up on each other, and sometimes it was just like, how are things going? And Colleen was great with that. She would nudge us a little bit, and we got it moving. We'll have a lot more of that after the project's done as we flesh out our website. So Rhonda gave us these names. Jacob's our tech guy, and Rhonda's the school librarian, and Aaron was our marketing person, and had some great ideas on marketing. And Lorelei did some wonderful things on accessible tools, working with the hearing and visually impaired, and I was the autism expert. And that's further some of the places that we're going to flesh out our website, due to lots of questions from other staff and patrons about that particular subject. We all have our names, and as you guys, like the emotional intelligence, you kind of all have your strengths, you all have our weaknesses, and we learned a lot about our strengths and weaknesses in our group. I was the focuser, maybe when cute cat videos came up and people were losing their concentration, to kind of put it back there, because when you have a long-term project or you're working there for hours after hours, it can be very hard to be on chat. Our Rhonda was the cheerleader. She was a very positive. She always had optimism about our project, and we do miss her optimism very much. Aaron got a lot of stuff done with the grants. We ran into some bureaucratic barriers with grants, and Aaron was great in helping us with that. Lorelei was great on keeping us on task and giving deadlines and setting goals, and Jacob is just, he's very easygoing. He's the calmer in our group. So it was a great experience, not in just making this project, but learning to work with this disparate personalities and finding out what our strengths are, and working with those strengths in our group. Funding, as I mentioned briefly before, was an issue. It takes more time than we realize. That was another takeaway. There's usually a few layers that it has to go through, and sometimes people are out of town, or they don't get the information. So one thing that we've learned is we will allot more time to get more money, and we will spend it sooner. That was one of our takeaways. But besides the takeaways in learning teamwork and learning organization and learning how budgetary processes worked, we learned a lot of stuff. I did not know much about the JAWS and other types of accessible technologies. Jacob enlightened us all about CMS and web design, and we are grateful for that. We are really excited about some of the project benefits that we can share what we've learned to other patrons. And we really see this website as something that's going to stand when we've maybe all changed jobs or all left, that it'll still be there, and this resource can be used not just for Utah but for other patrons. We hope that as we learned through what tools and customer service tips, we hope those tools and tips can be used in other libraries too, and that is one of our goals. We learned about our long-term goals. When you have an 8-month project, it can be hard to keep the momentum going. You know, get all excited at first, and then everyday life steps in. You know, you have other projects, you have other things that come up. So our takeaway is just giving extra time and being more proactive with getting our work done. And one particular thing I can say is I've loved the networking part of ILEAD and getting to know other librarians. We came from public school and academic librarians, so we learned a lot about each other. We learned about Rhonda and how you can get fired as a school librarian and how you can't get time off, and that taught us a lesson too, to be grateful for certain things and understanding of other things. I learned more about the accessible tools and technology, and the rest of them learned more about public library patrons, because we have similar patrons, but there are differences. So we need to learn how to serve all of our patrons in school, public, and academic librarians, and there's different kind of tools and tips and things that we need to focus on as we did that. As I mentioned before, website, platforms, protocol, and learning about disabilities were other things that we learned. And as Jacob mentioned, we're currently gathering a selection of good tutorials. We're also gathering some great resources in the community. There are a number of great Utah-based websites that have all sorts of wonderful resources, free stuff. The Autism Council of Utah, the Utah Parent Center, or just to name a few that have some really great resources that we plan to collaborate. On this project, we worked with Easter Seals, which is a nonprofit that serves patrons from young ages to adulthood with disabilities. They were a consultant on this project, and they were a really great tool for learning how to frame our tutorials. We have a better idea of how to present the information, and they gave us some wonderful resources too. We hope to meet other librarians with similar interests. When we were talking as a group, we found that it was a common theme, like how do I serve this patron? How do I address maybe behavioral issues that I don't understand? How do I make the library a place for everyone? And so we hope to continue with that and cope with our changes in our team, because there still will be changes and there still will be projects over our head, and we need to learn to continue to adjust that.
And so our future plans right now are to continue working to create tutorials, to update and moderate the Joomla site, and to continue developing our webinar content. So our first presentation will be to Weber County Library staff on November 11th. So we're really looking forward to doing that and also scheduling additional presentations. And we'd like to thank everybody that helped us, both at Utah State Library, Utah Library Association, and other organizations. I think I speak for all of us when I say we had a great time and we learned a lot. So thank you, and we're happy to take questions.
Disabled holds the world's largest braille library. Could we get a little, maybe a bug someplace with it?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're still working on links.
What's your next project going to be? What do you have a next tutorial idea?
Yeah, so Carrie is working on a tutorial for working with children with autism, and our tutorial is working with patrons with physical disabilities. We have an actor in place for that, but it's taking him some time. He's a PhD candidate, and so it's taking him some time to actually get to the library to be able to film it.
What's the plan for telling other libraries all across the state about the things you've just created? Because you created things that, working with a patron, you gave some phenomenal advice. But now we just need other people who are working in libraries to see it. What's your plan?
So I'm the Utah Library Association social media manager, which basically means I update Facebook and Twitter. So that's our first plan. We've also created promotional materials that Carrie can hand out after our presentation. And she also has some venues in the public library for doing promotion.
Yeah, what we're doing at Weber County is a customer service-based presentation about how to serve, in general, patrons with disabilities. We're hoping as that presentation goes on, there might be more. That's an in-person one. And then library staff can also look at the links. Colleen gave me the opportunity to do a webinar with the Utah State Library and the Utah Library Association. We can really definitely expand this information into those webinars. There's also some really great, as I mentioned briefly before, some other websites and other social media specifically for this population that I'm in touch with. So there are a lot of venues, and definitely the Utah State Library is one of them.
Also, one thing that's not terribly well represented right now on that website, but it will be there in the future, is I really want to take the friction out of the process of getting other people to collaborate with us. So there will be an area that both kind of advertises how people can not only read our tutorials, but contribute tutorials, and a system for integrating user accounts really easily and getting content in there in an easy manner. So yeah, hopefully we'll be able to do that.
Other questions?
Here and there I get requests for somebody to come and speak to a library group on how to help somebody who has a disability at their library. Do you feel like any of you three would be enough content experts that you could, if I told you, hey, this library's interested in that, do you think you would be enough of a, would you feel comfortable enough to do that kind of
Yeah, I think we all can. Jacob's area of interest that more has to do with accessible web design. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn. That's correct, right?
Yeah, well, and just applications that can be used for accessibility purposes, like JAWS.
Yeah, so tech stuff is probably better for him, but I think all of us feel comfortable enough to be able to serve in that role. And if you'd like to invite us, we would love to come. So just a plug there. All right.
Those should be going around, and you should all have our contact information, but if you don't, please let us know and we'll sign the back of it so you can get in touch with us.
Thank you so much.